Most people think the Church is about to declare Mary the Co-Redemptrix, or maybe they think it already did. But in 2025, the Vatican made it clear that's not going to happen, and the reason why might surprise you. It's not because the Church downplays Mary, it's because it honors Christ. The document Mater Populi Fidelis, released by the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, reaffirmed something essential. Mary did cooperate in the work of redemption. She did so freely, uniquely, and profoundly. But calling her Co-Redemptrix risks confusing the faithful and clouding what the Church has always guarded, Christ as the one mediator. So, today, we're going to unpack what the Church actually teaches about Mary's role in salvation history, why the early Church called her the new Eve, what Vatican II and the 2025 clarification really said, and how Catholics can talk about this clearly without falling into error or extremes. Because whether you're a lifelong Catholic, a curious Christian from another tradition, or just exploring faith again, this touches something foundational. How grace works, how we're saved, and what it means to say yes to God. And I've spent the last few weeks digging into everything from the Church Fathers to modern magisterial texts to bring you a faithful, clear answer. If you're interested in deepening your faith, hit like and tell me where you're watching from. And if you find this valuable, consider subscribing to stay rooted in Catholic truth. You can also support the making of these videos, our team, and the tools we use through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen. Let's start with why Mary's role is even talked about in the context of redemption. It goes back to the very beginning, Genesis 3:15. After the fall, God tells the serpent, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." The woman is not Eve. It's Mary, the mother of the Messiah. This verse is called the proto-evangelium, the first gospel. From the start, salvation is shown as involving not just the Redeemer, but also the woman who bears him. That pattern continues. In Luke 1:38, Mary responds to the angel with, "Let it be to me according to your word." The Catechism calls this moment her obedience of faith, CCC 148. Unlike Eve, Mary says yes. St. Irenaeus, writing around AD 180, explains that the knot of Eve's disobedience was loosed by the obedience of Mary, against heresies 3:22-4. He says Mary became the cause of salvation for herself and the whole human race, not by her own power, but by her consent. We see this again at Cana in John 2:1-11, where Mary intercedes and Jesus begins his public ministry. And finally, at the cross in John 19:25-27, Mary stands at the foot of the cross, sharing in her son's suffering. St. Augustine calls her a cooperator in salvation through love. Sermon 25:7, not equal to Christ, but joined to him in suffering and faith. All this shows us something vital. Mary's role in redemption is not invention. It's woven into Scripture and affirmed by the earliest Christian voices. But that clarity lays the groundwork, because it won't make sense unless we now see how the Church interprets that role today. Vatican II gives us the clearest framework. In Lumen Gentium section 56-58, the Council teaches that Mary freely cooperated in the work of man's salvation through faith and obedience. It emphasizes that she was not merely passively engaged, but freely cooperating in the work of salvation. At Calvary, she united herself with his sacrifice, lovingly consenting to the immolation of this victim. This is not poetic language, it's doctrinal. Mary's participation is real, but subordinate. The Catechism follows this line. CCC 494 affirms Mary's fiat as a necessary act of faith. CCC 964 describes her union with Christ's sacrifice, with a mother's love. CCC 970 states clearly that Mary's function flows forth from the superabundance of the merits of Christ, and it does not hinder in any way the immediate union of the faithful with Christ. So why not just say Co-Redemptrix? Because words matter. The prefix co can be misunderstood in English to mean equal partner. That's not the Latin usage, but the confusion is real. And in a church that speaks to billions across languages and cultures, clarity is pastoral responsibility. That's why the 2025 document Mater Populi Fidelis discouraged the term. It stated that while Mary's cooperation is genuine and singular, the title Co-Redemptrix risks obscuring the uniqueness of Christ's role as the only mediator, 1 Timothy 2:5. It recommended using expressions like Mother of the Redeemer, Associate in Redemption, or Spiritual Mother of the Redeemed, phrases that preserve the substance without the confusion. This isn't a downgrade, it's precision. It means we can honor Mary without clouding Christ. And it helps us witness clearly to those who misunderstand Catholic teaching. That shows where the Church stands. But without the next part, the theology loses precision. Some Catholics were disappointed by the 2025 decision. They saw it as a missed opportunity to affirm a Marian dogma. Others misunderstood it as a change in doctrine. Neither is true. The Church has always clarified titles with care. In the early 20th century, Pope Pius XI used the term Co-Redemptrix in a devotional context. Pope John Paul II referred to it several times, but never dogmatically. In 1996, Cardinal Ratzinger, later Pope Benedict XVI, explained that the term was not suitable for formal teaching because it departs too far from the language of Scripture and the Fathers. Pope Francis has gone further. He's said explicitly that Mary is not a goddess. She is not co-redemptrix. That phrase unsettled some Catholics, but it echoed what the magisterium had long held. Not a rejection of Mary's role, but a refusal to use a title that leads to doctrinal confusion or theological imbalance. The Church's role is not to multiply devotions, but to safeguard the truth. Titles must serve truth, not distract from it. If a phrase requires constant explanation to avoid misunderstanding, it may not serve the faithful well. That's the judgment Rome made in 2025. That's the caution. But we still need to walk through what the Church does teach about Mary's participation. The Church teaches that Mary is the new Eve, the mother of the Redeemer, and the associate in redemption. These aren't slogans. They describe theological realities. Mary's yes at the Annunciation made possible the Incarnation. Her intercession at Cana helped inaugurate Christ's public ministry. Her presence at the cross shows her union with his passion. After the resurrection, Acts 1:14 shows her praying with the apostles at Pentecost. This is why the Church calls her our Mother in the Order of Grace, CCC 968. It's why she's honored in every Eucharistic prayer. Not because she is equal to Christ, but because she shows us what perfect cooperation with grace looks like. We can imitate her in saying yes to God's will, trusting in trials, and interceding for others. We can draw near to her as Jesus did, because he gave her to us as mother, John 19:27. And if you'd like daily Catholic resources right at your fingertips, visit our website or scan the QR code on screen. You'll find daily Mass readings, the Seven Sorrows Rosary, devotional prayers, and Soul Search, a private web app for daily examination of conscience with guided reflections, progress tracking, and secure journaling to help you grow spiritually. Mary doesn't compete with Christ, she magnifies him. As she says in Luke 1:46, "My soul magnifies the Lord." That's her mission, and it can be ours too. Now, let's address the most common objections to this distinction and how to respond faithfully. Some Protestants believe that calling Mary a cooperator in redemption elevates her to a divine status. It doesn't. The Church teaches that Christ alone is the Redeemer. Mary participates only through his merits, not apart from them. Others think the Church changes teachings over time. In truth, the Church has always taught Mary's cooperation in redemption, but has carefully refined how that's expressed. Finally, some Catholics worry that avoiding the term co-redemptrix weakens devotion. But devotion is not strengthened by confusing language. It's deepened by clarity, rooted in truth. These concerns matter, but they can be answered with confidence when we understand the Church's reasoning and stay close to her teaching. So what should we take from all this? First, Mary's role in salvation is real, unique, and essential, but always dependent on Christ. She is not equal to the Redeemer. She is his handmaid and mother. Second, the Church safeguards titles to protect truths. The rejection of one term doesn't mean the rejection of the truth behind it. We honor Mary best when we use language that upholds Christ's unique mediation. Third, our own lives echo this pattern. We're not saviors, but we can cooperate with grace, just like Mary. Every time we say yes to God, offer suffering for others, or pray for someone's conversion, we reflect Mary's role in our own way. So here's something you can do today. Pray the Rosary, meditating on how Mary's life followed the life of Christ. Read Luke 1 and John 19 with fresh eyes. Ask her to help you trust like she did. And when others ask what Catholics believe about Mary and salvation, speak plainly. She points us to Jesus. If this helped you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and check out our web app for daily Catholic resources and soul search to guide your spiritual journey. Mary magnified the Lord, not herself. So do we when we follow her lead. Stay close to Christ and everything else finds its place.